In Colombia, the leaders of the Revolutionary Armed Forces dissidents are said to hold peace talks with government officials. Also, over 230 protests are expected all over France in the 10th day of national demonstrations called on by unions against the government's pension reform. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced his office will delay the process for discussions on the controversial planned judicial overhaul to next month. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. In Colombia, the leaders of the Revolutionary Armed Forces dissidents, by its acronyms in Spanish, FARC, left the Cauca region on Monday to participate in peace talks. AKA Andrés Patiño, the commander of the so-called Western Coordinating Command, and AKA Marlon, head of the Jaime Martinez Front, flew in a helicopter accompanied by representatives of international organizations in the midst of symbolic acts. On their departure, they are assured that this was the new attempt by the armed group in favor of peace in Colombia. Both have headed for the summit of commanders of the Central General Staff of the FARC, where the social or the official commission will be chosen for the peace talks with the national government. On Monday in Ecuador, the first impeachment bill against President Guillermo Lasso, presented by Judge Teresa Núñez, failed to reach the majority of qualified votes in the Constitutional Court to continue with its processing. In this regard, it was reported that the case presented by Núñez only obtained 3 of the 6 votes necessary for its approval. In accordance with the law, a new lottery was held among the judges who voted against the first case, from which Judge Richard Ortiz was designated. Now, the judge will have 24 hours to prepare a new admissibility opinion and present it to the plenary of the judicial body. In this sense, the Constitutional Court ratified its commitment to issue the corresponding opinion within the stipulated term due to the understanding of the transcendence of the case involving President Lasso. On Monday, Peruvian President Dina Boluarte testified before the Public Prosecutor's Office for alleged irregular hiring of companies linked to a former advisor. According to the newspaper El Comercio, the president's statements had been scheduled for Thursday at the government palace. However, Boluarte requested to reschedule it. In mid-March, El Comercio reported on alleged irregular contracts obtained by 2 companies. The Ministries of Labor and Foreign Trade and Tourism awarded contracts to Total Force SAZ and Asociación Educativa Florence Nightingale, founded by Boluarte's advisor Grica Asayag, as well as her daughter. Asayag was removed from the position of advisor for allegedly having presented false certificates to access the position. In Mexico, authorities of the northwestern state of Chihuahua confirmed the deaths of 39 asylum seekers in a fire. The incident occurred on Monday night at a National Migration Institute station in Ciudad Juárez. Although the official report does not yet mention the origin of the tragedy, some witnesses affirmed that it was caused in the middle of a protest rally held by asylum seekers inside the men's area. Apparently, they were refusing to be transferred to the south of Mexico. In this regard, it was also learned that all victims were male, and the injured were taken to hospitals. In Haiti, more than 15 social organizations asked the government to decree a state of emergency in gun-controlled areas due to the alarming increase of terrorist groups. The platforms, including December 4 Collective, Saint Carl Levesque, and the Human Rights Lawyers Collective, denounced the appalling cruelty of members of the armed groups. In this context, they pointed out the commission of massacres, rapes, kidnappings, and robberies, as well as the trauma suffered by thousands of students with the progressive closure of schools and universities. More than 500 people have been killed in Haiti so far in 2023, and another 277 have been kidnapped, according to the United Nations. In Haiti, the country director for the UN World Food Programme, Jean-Martin Bauer, reported on Monday at a press conference the difficult situation affecting the Caribbean country and wondered how bad things have to get before measures are taken to avoid a serious food crisis affecting 100% of the population.
Haiti is slowly sliding into a hunger emergency. Last week, we released new numbers. These numbers show that 5 million people in Haiti are facing acute hunger. I'd like to put these numbers into perspective. These numbers have tripled since Hurricane Matthew in 2016. The number of food insecure people in Haiti has tripled. It's half of the population, and these are, simply put, some of the worst food security conditions on record for Haiti.
Additionally, Jean-Martin Bauer called upon the international community for a strong humanitarian response.
Yeah, and Haiti can't wait. We can't wait for the situation here to get more difficult before the international community reacts and comes in with the help that's needed. There's a humanitarian gap in the response in Haiti so far. There's been a lot of talk about supporting the political process in Haiti, about improving security in the country, and all those are important, but they won't be viable unless there's a robust humanitarian response.
Let's take a short break. But first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. The Peruvian National Meteorology and Hydrology Service warns above normal rainfall between April and June. The study focused its attention especially to the country's northern and central coast and the northern and central highlands, putting 8,165 population centers at high and very high risk of overflowing rivers and floods. The report identified that around 684,000 people are at risk, while 174,000 homes will be seriously affected by possible flooding. In addition, 324 health facilities and 1,262 educational institutions will also be affected. In Brazil, heavy rains and landslides caused craters up to 70 meters deep. The formations occur in the municipality of Buriticupu, where 27 families were forced to abandon their homes due to the risk of landslides. According to the fire department, the people that evacuated the risk zones received first care by the public authorities. Some of those affected said that the problem has been impacting the area for decades because the vegetation is scarce and directly exposes the soil, making it more prone to landslides as a result of heavy rains. In the United States, storm-ravaged Mississippi struggles with the aftermath of a huge tornado that tore across the southern state, killing at least 25 people, with devastated communities bracing for a fresh bout of extreme weather. Search and rescue workers surveyed the damage of shredded homes, flattened buildings, and smashed cars in Rolling Fork, a small town all wiped out by nature's wrath. After President Joe Biden freed up disaster aid, the National Weather Service warned residents of potential new supercell thunderstorms that could produce a few strong tornadoes and very large hail. Before and after satellite images released late Sunday showed utter ruin across parts of Rolling Fork, with homes destroyed and trees ripped out. And over 230 protests are expected on Tuesday all over France in the 10th day of national demonstrations called on by the unions against the government's pension reform. The bill that extends the retirement age to 64 years and increases the period of contributions was already forced through without a parliamentary vote last week. However, the unions and the opposing political forces continue to strongly reject it as they demand that the President Emmanuel Macron withdraw the reform. In this sense, the General Secretary of Workers' Force, Frédéric Soulot, urged the executive to put an end to the political and social crisis, which is of concern given the episodes of violence of the last few days. For its part, Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin announced the unprecedented deployment of 13,000 police officers, 5,500 of them in the capital following recent riots and protests that left hundreds of injured and arrested. Public transport, fuel supply, education, and garbage collection in Paris are the sectors most affected by Tuesday's actions. On Monday, the UN Security Council failed to pass a Russian-Chinese draft resolution calling for an international investigation into the Nord Stream pipeline explosions last year. The initiative failed to gain the necessary support for passage, with 3 countries, Russia, China and Brazil, voting in favor, 0 votes against, and the remaining 12 countries abstaining. Russia's permanent representative to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, stated that Moscow submitted the initiative because it was very reasonable and doubts about the objectivity and transparency of the national investigations carried out by some European states. Nebenzia regrets the lack of intention to cooperate with the parties concerned, especially Russia, which is the one that suffered the most. According to the diplomat, the investigations carried out by Germany, Denmark and Sweden could lead to the evidence of the sabotage being concealed. The Hungarian parliament, dominated by Prime Minister Viktor Orban's far-right Fidesz party, ratified Finland's NATO membership on Monday after months of diplomatically charged delay. A large majority of lawmakers, with 182 votes for versus 6 against, approved the accession of the Nordic country into the military alliance. The vote means that 29 out of 30 NATO member states' parliament have ratified Finland's accession, with the exception of Turkey, which must decide its vote next month. NATO's expansion into Finland, a country with 1,340-kilometer border with Russia, will roughly double the length of the military bloc's current frontier. Helsinki and Stockholm ended decades of military non-alignment and decided to join the Western alliance in the wake of current Ukraine crisis and the Western powers' pressure. Scotland's governing Scottish National Party elected Humza Yousaf as its new leader on Monday after a 5-week contest that exposed deep fractures within the pro-independence movement. The 37-year-old son of South Asian migrants is said to become the first non-white and the first Muslim to serve as Scotland's first minister since the post was established in 1999. Yousaf, who currently is Scotland's health minister, beat 2 other Scottish lawmakers in a contest to replace First Minister Nicola Sturgeon. He unexpectedly stepped down last month after 8 years as leader of the party and of Scotland's semi-autonomous government. The new party leader is due to be confirmed as First Minister by Scottish lawmakers on Tuesday and faces the challenge of uniting the Scottish National Party and re-energizing its campaign for Scottish independence from the United Kingdom.
Joining the SNP for me was an act of hope, but it was also a statement of intent. I was determined then, as I am now, that we will deliver independence for Scotland, together, as a team. I'm a proud Scot, and equally a proud European too, and Scotland is a European nation. We want to return to the European Union and play our part in building a continent that's based on human rights, on peace, prosperity and social justice.
TeleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. Want a final short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. On Monday night, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu passed a judicial overhaul which triggered a general strike, political division, and mass protests. The reforms will curtail Supreme Court's authority and give politicians greater powers over the appointment of judges. The legislation will now be further analyzed in the next session of Parliament to be held on the second half of April, the Prime Minister said. His comments came a day after he dismissed Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, who had called to stop the legislative process, citing national security concerns. According to Israeli media's estimates, about 80,000 demonstrators joined the Jerusalem rally against the reform package. For months, they have described the reform plans as a threat to Israel's democracy. In Russia, the State Archive of Scientific and Technical Documentation published images of the site of the plane crash that killed Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin 55 years ago on March 27, 1968. The images show the wreckage of the fuselage of the MiG-15 UTI aircraft in which Gagarin was flying, together with military pilot Vladimir Sergeyevich. The snapshots are dated March 28, 1968, one day after the crash. Among other things, photos from newspapers reported the tragedy, and the state funerals of both crew members were also published. In Sudan, the head of state, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, on Monday called on troops to back democratic transition. The Sudanese leader assured that the army will be under the authority of a new civilian-led government as part of the talks to continue the transition to a democratic regime in the country. Authorities said the reform process is long and complicated and cannot be circumvented. Al-Burhan heads a junta that holds power following a military coup in 2021, which deposed the civilian authorities that made up the transitional government, established after the overthrow of Omar al-Bashir in 2019. The military and political parties signed an agreement in December to set up a civilian-led transitional government to oversee elections in 2 years. However, pro-democracy protest groups opposed the agreement, demanding the inclusion of transitional justice and security reforms. Damascus hosted over the last 2 days the fourth meeting between the ministers of agriculture of Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Iraq. The meeting concluded with the signing of a document for cooperation and trade exchange with a view to achieving agricultural integration among the 4 neighboring countries.
During the meeting, which was held under the theme for regional agroeconomic integration, the 4 heads of state and government discussed ways to increase trade, support regional agricultural projects, improve agricultural production, and achieve food security.
We seek to increase the flow of goods and agricultural products between our 4 Arab countries and their export to other Arab and foreign nations, which is why this meeting is of particular importance, and it includes all relevant actors and organizations that can lay the foundations for joint development projects and partnerships that could help us achieve our goal of ensuring regional food security.
The 4 ministers also addressed serious challenges of climate change and the successive crises affecting grain supplies and food prices, land degradation and the agriculture sector strategies, and agricultural agenda of the 4 countries.
We are neighboring countries that enjoy a high level of agricultural production, but in many occasions we face problems with the transportation of these products between them. Also, some of us sometimes have a lot of production, while others do not. That is why we seek through this meeting to promote agricultural integration, which in turn will improve trade and improve the national economy in the 4 countries.
The meeting concluded with the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding that stipulates the promotion of agricultural collaboration and the exchange of knowledge, information and experiences, as well as the joint management of protected areas in the four countries. The document also covers cooperation in firefighting, climate change, rural and agricultural development and production, animal health and veterinary medicines.
This agreement will be the core of a comprehensive agreement that will include all Arab countries in the next stage, which, in addition to improving the living standards of citizens, will help to reduce the severe climate changes that plague our Arab region, especially in the Middle East and these four countries.
Hopefully we can solve all the problems in a way that will have a positive impact on all sectors, including the agricultural one, and hopefully this memorandum will contribute to facilitating the flow of goods and agricultural products between our countries, to improve the profitability of the agricultural sector and thus achieve local and regional food security.
The meeting and the signed agreement paved the way for joint Arab action starting from Damascus, an achievement that shows that Syria, despite the aftermath of 12 years of terrorist war and blockade, to which the repercussions of the recent earthquake have been added, continues to be, contrary to the wishes of Washington and its allies, the beating heart of the Arab world. Hisham Wanous, TeleSUR, Damascus, Syria.
Hisham Wanous, TeleSUR, Damascus, Syria.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.